be talking about HTTP and AJAX again. You've learned GET requests and POST requests. So today we're going to learn the last two of the four main request types that you use when building web applications: put and delete requests. So as we know, a put request is the way that we can update data on a database. So we make a put request if we want to update or edit some data on our database. And then, of course, the delete request is for the destroy or delete functionality on the database. Yeah, there's not much to an introduction for these. So if you have your Trinkets API up and running, we can go ahead and jump right into our project. If you don't, the link is in Slack, and I will get mine running right now. And we should see that there's a server listening on port 3333. So let's open up localhost 3333. Okay, good. Remember from yesterday, this is good. This means our server is running. We just haven't hit an endpoint that sends back any kind of message for us here. So let's take a look at the API. We've got our server. We've got some items here. So these items are hard-coded in the API. They're not actually from a database. So the nice thing about that is if we update or delete some of these, we can restart the server, Control-C, and yarn start the server again, and we'll get our original data. Okay, so here's our first get endpoint. We can go to /items to get our list of items. All right, make sure you have your server up and running, and we're going to just jump right into this. One of my favorite projects ever. I dare someone to count how many times I've said that during this unit. Okay, so I'm going to open this in a new window and close it down here. Okay, so we have our lovely trinkets. And we can click into these and we can see the shipping, we can see the story, the information. We can add an item, even though that functionality is actually not working right now in this current sandbox. We at least have the form. Okay, so if you notice, there is an addition here that you did not build into your Trinkets project with Christina, and that is the edit and delete button. So we want to get these functioning so that we can click edit our item here, and make that put request to the server, or click delete and have it delete the item. So before we start out, let's try and think through the process of these two actions. Editing is by far the hardest, the most complicated process out of get, put, post, put, delete. Out of all of them, the put or the edit functionality is the hardest. And let me show you why. We're going to grab my lovely drawings. Okay, so no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this. All right, so we have our app. We've got our home page here. We've got our list page here. We've got our add item form, and then we're going to add an update form here. Now, under the list, component, there are a whole bunch of items listed out. We can click on an item and we can go to, let's move these, bump these over just a bit. We can click on one of these items and get routed to a item page, right? So we're gonna kind of focus right now on the item component and the update form component. So we're gonna build out this update form. We actually have it in code already. We just have to build a route for it. And what this is going to do is this is going to have a form with all the fields that we need for an item. And we're going to update that form. So we're going to have in state, we're going to have an updated item object. Updated item. We have all the data on that object for our updated item. Like if we wanted to change this to be $24, then our new updated item object would have price as $24 instead of 12. And we're going to update that through the form. Okay, so here's where things get complicated. In our item component, which we're looking at, we have a button. And this button needs to do a couple things. It needs to route us to the form and send item data to the form. So I want you to think about this conceptually. If you have two sibling components, which is the situation we're looking at here, how can we share data between sibling components? We can't do it directly like this. There's a few ways that we can, a few strategies that we can use to accomplish this goal, where we click on this button, route to our form, and our form will know which item we clicked on, and we'll have all the data for that item. Okay, so I'm gonna do this in Slack. We are going to let me close this down a little bit. Actually, I can just erase these things. No Redux for this, although Redux would be a good way to do this. Okay, question. How can we accomplish this? Sharing data between these two components. Redux is awesome. It does take a while to get used to it though. All right, so how are we going to accomplish this? How are we going to share when we click on this button and we route to the form? How are we going to share that data to there? All right, context. Context is a good thought. We could use props. How could we use props here? We can't send props to the form from item. Where would that have to come from? Redux or stored in parent component. Ooh, there we go. So that kind of ties in with props, right? We could do something like in our state up here, we could have something like item to edit, and then a callback function that gets called when we click on this button to set the item to edit to the item we clicked on, and then that gets passed down as a prop. That's one way you could do it. that kind of muddies the state up here. And so we're going to keep exploring, but that is a great option. All right, let's see, context. Yeah, we could kind of do the same thing, have a function up here that gets passed into context that adds our item to the context data up here, and then have the form grab that item from context. This is definitely the best way we're gonna do this. So let's call Amazon, and they'll set that up for us. 10 points for Todd for awesome humor. Let's see, pass state via props and updating state while using helper function. Yep, we kind of talked about that. Router. Javon, tell us more about router. What can we do? What can we do with router to help us out here? Context redux, render props, pass function. Man, a lot of good comments. Thank you, everyone. Can't you just make it into one file and use state to hold your state? We could, but then we'd have this idea of, we'd have a component that would be kind of in charge of two things. So we want to keep these components separated. Okay, so here is a good thought. You can take the params ID to reference the item of interest in state, so it's already from an index of 0. Ooh, we could use a .get. Cool. Let's explore this a little bit here. So the ID, like we did with the movies project, Once Upon a Time warp. You know what's really funny about that? Check out today's project, movies assignment. Yeah. Get to rebuild the movies assignment, but with put and delete. Okay, so yeah, I really like this idea. So this is kind of what those two are alluding to. When we route to the form, we could have an ID parameter on the form in the route. So up here. So it could say, we could have a route that says update item /4, and then the update form can take in the list of items, which is here on state, as a prop, and can find the correct item based on the ID. Okay, I'll walk through that one more time. So we're going to route to our form using a parameter. So our form will have access to the ID of the item we clicked on. And then the update form will take in items as a prop, and we'll loop through items and we'll find the item that matches the ID that's in the URL. Sound like a plan? Cool, let's do it. The other way we could use router is you can actually pass state between routes. Let me find that real quick, just as an FYI, not something that we're going to actually look into or do. Oh no, I want, come on. There we go. Okay, web. And if we go to the history and we look at .push, you can see that you can do history.push and pass in some state, pass in some data. So let's find where it talks about state within the history. Okay. So then in the props.location, dot state object, you can get that state out of the from where you just came from. So there is a way to pass state along through the routing, through the router. So you can explore that a little bit more. I will list this in here. Please don't share, don't try. That is the best analogy in the world. I have to share that with Christina, so she can share that with in week 1 of React when we're talking about components. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm really happy with this plan. I think this is going to work really well. Let's go ahead and look at any questions that you have before we jump in and implement this after our break. So are there any questions? Let me pull this down. Stop the poll. All right. Did Lambda change the lecture for today to be HTTP AJAX instead of deploying websites? Yes. We switched that around so that your cognitive load was heavier on a Wednesday, and you have a couple more days to work on a larger, heavier project. Tomorrow is super light, super easy. So Thursday's going to be the light load for this week. And you will have extra time tomorrow to come back to this project today if you want to keep working on the movies project. Oh no, wrong one. Hold on, let me go back. Come back. Okay, why is it called HTTP and AJAX? So these are terms that you can look up. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, I believe. Someone's going to correct me on that. I know it. Hypertext, yeah, I think it's Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And it's a protocol that is set up for backend developers and front-end developers that basically says, it just sets up some rules for this front-end to back-end communication. So imagine if you made a put request, or let's say you made a get request for a specific item, we expect that the backend developer has built the server to accept get requests and return the item by the ID given. But imagine it if your backend developer said, well, I'm going to take this get request and I'm going to delete the item that at that ID. Like that would not, that world would be chaos, right? You would never know how APIs work. There needs to be some kind of standard, some kind of protocol for how this communication works. So that's what HTTP is. It also sets up protocol for status messages and different things like that. AJAX is a way to asynchronously make requests from your browser to a server. Great question. And if you want to know a little bit more about status codes, you can look up, let's see, what is it? Cats status. Look up HTTP cats or HTTP docs, and they're amazing. My favorite one is internal server error. It's so good. Okay, I digress. What does CR stand for in CRUD? Create. So CRUD is an acronym for database operations that coincide with the 4 main HTTP request types. So there's create, which is post, read, which coincides with get, update, and delete, which coincide with post and delete. So create read, update, delete. Okay, how did you get your shop to render again? I missed it. I loaded up the server, but the shop stays blank. It should come up if you can go to here and get items in your browser, then you should be able to. Let's see. You should be able to click on shop now or the shop button here, and it should load that. If not, you're probably running into a cores issue, which we had a short discussion on. Let's see, right here. Does this node server have a header that allows cores? So we Firefox users aren't left in the dark. If you're getting a cores, if you're having a cores issue, you may have to use the Heroku cores workaround, which means that in index in our app, when you get the items, you'd have to put the Heroku extension here, or potentially use like the cores everywhere extension. Just make sure you turn it off if you're going anywhere else in the web. And yeah, I think those are kind of the two workarounds. Or download Chrome. Aha. But yeah, I'm assuming that it's going to be it's probably a cores issue. Okay. Alrighty, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and work on our trinkets app. Okay, come on back. All right, so let's go to this edit button and let's work on routing to the update list and passing in the correct ID of the item that we want to update. So in item.js, you'll see that we have our two buttons down here at the bottom. So what I want you to do for the next couple minutes here is add an on-click handler to this edit button. I'll write this down here. So we're going to add on-click handler to the edit button. We'll want when the button is clicked, route to the update form, which means we need to add a route for the update form with an ID param. Okay, so these are the tasks. There we go. For us. So take about 5 minutes to work on those 3 items. And do we want instrumental music in the background? Actually, I think we'll just keep it like this. Music. Nah, we'll keep it kind of silent. Okay, I'll see you back in 4.5 minutes. All right, time is winding down. Okay. All right, in a thread here, share your code sandbox links. It's okay if you couldn't figure it out. What's cool about this kind of exercise is this is what we call spaced repetition. And this is a proven by science way to help you learn. So spaced repetition means this is something that we learned previously that I'm now asking you to do from memory. And just attempting it will, even if you fail, just attempting it will strengthen your memory and your learning of what we're working on here. So if you feel like you don't get it, keep working at it. Take the entire time, keep working at it, because that's going to help you learn. That struggle will help you learn. That way, when you see me go through the right answer, it will really help. If you don't attempt it at all during that 5 minutes, then you're doing yourself a pretty big disservice, because you're not letting your mind learn and grow as it needs to in this spaced repetition exercise. Okay, cool. So let's check out. Let's see, who do we got here? Let's check out Emily's. Okay, so shop now, go into here. Perfect. So let's see what Emily did. This is what we want to accomplish. When we are at an item, we want to click edit and have it route us to some kind of new route with a parameter that has the ID of the item we clicked on. So let's look at the tasks. We had add an on-click handler to the edit button. So inside components, inside item, we have an on-click handler here. First thing we're doing is calling prevent default, and then we say props.history.push, and we're pushing to our new route. Now you'll notice, since this is dynamic, we have to use the backticks here. We're going to use an interpolated string, because we need to, this could change depending on which item we've clicked on here. Okay, awesome, that looks really good. Let me go through that step as well. So if you didn't get this working, again, that's totally fine. Just work alongside me to build this out right now. So add an on-click, and I'm going to add a function handler, a handler function, and not do it inline. Both ways are just fine, not to say that this is wrong, just to show a different way to do it. So here it is with the function inline. Now let's do something like handle edit click. Okay, so we need to create a function called handle edit click that takes in an event. And first thing we're going to do is call event.prevent default, like so. So again, if you didn't get yours working, make sure you're following along right now. And so I'll stick right here for a second, create your handle edit click function, and pass that into the on click on the edit button. Okay, then we want to use the history object. So we're going to say props.history.push. should take us to, we don't know the route yet, right? Emily had her route built out here. So let's, I'm going to say, I'm going to create, my route is going to be update item slash item.id. So that's going to be my route. You get to decide what your route is for your project. Now, where are we getting item from? Let's go back up here and look. Okay, so item is this const where we are taking the list of items stored in the app component and passed down to item as a prop. And we're finding the item from the params in the URL. So this right up here. So this item component grabs this param. It will find the item that has the same ID and set that as a const in this component. By the way, this kind of const, this could be set as state, right? But it's not, it's just a const. This is called a, I'm forgetting the name. It's right at the tip of my tongue, come on. Okay, I'll look it up in a second here. So we're gonna take that item that we've set here and we're gonna grab the ID and we're going to route to our update item route slash whatever ID of the item that we have here. Okay, good, that's the first part. The second one is when the button is clicked, route to the update form. Oh, we have that. So route to the update form. And then as part of that, we do need to make sure we add a route for the update form. So let's go to index. And let's add a new route. Oh, hey, look at that. That is an artifact from when this was last created. So lucky us, we have our update form. And that's why Emily used this route. I'm going to keep my route though, because I like it better. Take that, previous Dustin. There we go. Okay, perfect. So we do have our route built. Now that means when we click on our item, we're going to route to this form. Yeah, there we go. And you'll see that you've got the URL up here, and we have access to our item. All right, great job. 30 points to Emily for involuntarily volunteering your code sandbox, and 5 points for everybody else that shared in the thread here. Okay, so we've done the first part. The next thing we're going to work on after our next break is, now that we have the ID in our URL up here, we need to get props. We need to get items from props. We need to find the item that we clicked on and populate this form with that item data. Before we do that, we're going to take some questions, look at questions, and take a break. All right, modals in React. Yes, modals are amazing. They seem tricky, or there's many ways to do that. There are many ways to do modals. Lots of apps use modals for edit or to show data to edit. Is it better practice to not use modals to edit? No, I actually think I like the idea of modals better. But yeah, maybe in the future this lesson could use modals. I'd have to think about making sure that it doesn't take away from what we're trying to learn with put requests and delete requests. But yeah, definitely another great way to handle what we're doing today. Thank you, Homer Simpson. I didn't know I had a celebrity in class today. Appreciate that. All right, is it best practice to do on-click your way? I did it today. I did today's project like Emily asking for a friend. Okay. Again, this is not wrong, and you'll see a lot of developers do inline on-clicks here. This will have some performance implications if you are mapping over, if you're dynamically creating this component. So for example, inside item list, this one right here, notice how it's nested inside a map. This is going to have some potential performance issues, because one of the most expensive things you can do with React, in other words, something that takes the most computing power, that's what it means when we say something is expensive in React. It takes a lot of computing power to do. One of the most expensive things you can do in JavaScript, is to create a function. So if you think about it, this creates not just a single function, but one function for every single thing inside this array. However, if we did const handle route, and we did this, oh, I see, route to item. Okay, yeah, we did this correctly. We need to pass in the event and the item. So this is good. When you have to pass in something as a parameter, then you have to build it in this way. But if we were to handle all of this inside here, then it would be a little bit more expensive. Okay, great question. I tend to do it this way just because of that more often, but sometimes I just add it inside here because I don't want to scroll up and create the function. It's laziness. Can we go over why we use props.history.push? Yeah, so think back. Again, this is a spaced repetition exercise. Think back to what week 3 of unit 2, so 1 month ago when you learned about router. We wanted to create a new page for our form. So we've got our update form here. We wanted this on a new page with a new route. And so if we are here and we need to route to a new page, there's 2 ways to do that. You can use a link, but we don't want to, we'd rather have a button, an actual button here for a button and not an anchor tag. So you could use the link, which creates an anchor tag, which takes you to the other component. Or you can use props.history.push to route to that new component as well. So that is why we are using that function. All right, awesome questions. Let's take a Fiverr, and then we will work on populating that form.
Hey yo.
It's like I want you to be careful when you're with that woman. Women are all liars. You should know that.
Hey yo.
When this is over, I'm getting out of it. All of it. When I do, will you come with me?
Okay, coming back to your seats. All right, so we have our item ID up here. How do you propose we populate our form? Oh dear. All right, I know we only have a couple more days together. Y'all are getting snarky. Is that a word, snarky? Pay a freelancer. I love it. Cool, so we're gonna get the ID of the item to populate those fields that we want. Pass the ID from state object info. Let's see, use effect and grab. Ooh, I like this. Let's set up a use effect and grab items. Grab from items prop. Okay, so what that means is our update form is receiving. If you look at the route, our update form is receiving our items list as a prop. So we have props.items, which is a list of all of our items from right here, right? We make a get request to get all of our items. We set our items with the data, and then we can pass that down to our update form. Okay, so update form has a list of all the props. We've got an item here with the initial item as state. So right now everything's empty. So we could do something like use effect. We could say that when the props.items changes, we want to set item with our item to edit. So what is item to edit? Yeah, const item. So our item to edit is going to be this. We're going to loop through our props.items to find the thing whose ID matches what's in our props.match.params.id. Okay, so let's just grab all of that. Actually, I'll just type it out here. So we're going to look at our items. We're going to say, we're going to have one item at a time. I'll just call it I. Or a lot of people call this E for element. We're going to loop through this array and look at one element at a time. Or you can say thing like we have in item.js. So we're going to look at one element at a time, and we're going to stop the loop and set our value of item to edit when this test comes back truthy. So if our item ID equals props.match.params.id, which is how we grab this number up here, or this string up here, we're going to set that, as soon as we find one that matches, we're going to set it to item to edit. Now remember, as Heather pointed out here, we have to do the string thing, the interpolated string, because this is a number and this is a string, and these won't ever end up matching. Okay, then it collapses down on multiple lines for us. Okay, we have this weird green squiggly line. Who can tell me, if you're caught up to this point, hover over that green squiggly line, take a look at what it says, and tell me what we need to do to fix this. Fix the green squiggly. Or just, yeah, that works. You should have a green squiggly. Just kidding. Maybe your settings aren't set up the same. I don't know. Remove it. Okay, what about props.match.params.id? Oh, maybe there's different colors, yeah. Add props.match.params.id as a second dependency. Why? Why is it complaining about props.match.params.id, and why should we add it here? Because it needs it. Yeah, it needs to watch that too. So this is a dependency array, and anything inside here that we use, like props.items, anything that this effect, this side effect, depends on, should always be put into here. So right now, this effect depends on props.items, and it depends on props.match.params.id. I should say anything that it depends on that's outside of the scope of this function. So item to edit, we don't have to put that in here because it's within the scope of the function here. There are some really big implications for this, and why you should never ever ignore that message. Dependency array islet warning. There are ways to disable that, but you should never do that. Let's see. No. Okay. This is Dan Abramov's blog called Overreacted. So overreacted.io. This is a really cool blog because he takes really complex issues and teaches them very straightforward And I still have to read them 1 or 2 or 3 times when I read these sometimes, but they're always presented in a very straightforward way, even though they go into some pretty deep subjects. Okay, so how do I correctly fetch data inside useEffect? What is the array? So this is going to go over the useEffect and the implications of the dependency array. So if you are curious, you can read into that a little bit more there. Oh, let's see. Okay. All right, so props.match.params.id, we have that. So how this is going to work, when this component mounts, if props.items changes or if props.match.params.id changes, then we're going to run this side effect. And we're going to take the item that we find from our array that matches the item that we clicked on, and we're going to add that item to state. When we add that item to state, all of these properties are going to be populated and added into our input. So item.price will be added to the price input because this item to edit has a price property on it. And that's getting updated to this item state. However, we're going to run into an issue here. Let's figure out why we're running into this issue. Okay, cannot read property name of undefined. Well, we've seen this kind of error before, right? We go to where name is in update form, line 48. So right here on the input. So if we go to this first input, it says cannot read property name of undefined. So undefined item is undefined in this case. You go to the property that it lists, look to the left of the dot, and that is coming through undefined. So why would item be undefined when we're setting it right here? Any thoughts? What do you mean needs props? It's imported. Props aren't passed on a direct call. It's within the useEffect. You should have this error. This should be an error you have. The form is populating. Ah, yes, the form will populate. Watch this. I'll show you another. This is going to blow your mind. Hey, my form populated. What? Now, for everyone whose form populated, refresh your page. Then you get the error. Yes, Robbie. Yes. Perfect. So the problem is the useEffect is running too soon. This is what we call a race condition. The useEffect is running and trying to set an item before our initial API call has come back from here. So if we refresh the page when we're at update item / some ID, that's going to, a page refresh is going to make app, is going to reset app. So our item state is going to reset to an empty array. We're going to kick off our GET request. Before this ever completes and comes back, we're going to render update form. Before that call can come back, update form will start rendering. We're going to run this effect because we actually, this will run on mount. And we do get an ID in here. So this will definitely run before our API call comes back. So watch this. If we do console.log item to edit, actually let's console.log props.items and item to edit. And let's go back. Let's go to our console. We're gonna click edit. Okay, so our items are already in here. And so we get an item to edit, and that populates our form. But if we refresh the page here, we get no items yet. The items have not been fetched. And item is therefore set to undefined. So we call set item with undefined. And that's a problem, right? Because that means we get this error, cannot read property name of undefined. So let's do this. Let's just say if item to edit is a thing, then we're going to set our item. So we're only going to call set item if this is a truthy value. In other words, if this is not undefined, go ahead and set our item. And it works. Crazy, huh? Well done, Robbie. If I didn't already give you points, you get 50 points today, because that's a tough bug to try and figure out. Race conditions. It was a race between whether or not this could finish mounting before the API could come back with its data. Race conditions are tough bugs to find and solve. Okay, let's take one more break now that we have all this in place. Actually, let's go ahead and do our put request. So now that we have our item populating, let's go ahead and make some changes and click update and make our post request. So in the update form, we have our button for update here. Let's set an on click, and let's make a function called update item. So we'll make a function up here. Oh, handle submit. We don't need an on click because we've got an on submit. Just kidding, I lied to you. I would never lead you astray. All right, so make a put request to the item. If you have had a chance to look at put requests, help me out here. How do we make a put request? Yes, yeah, two use effects that are racing each other. Race car. Ooh, race horse, even better. Okay, Spencer says it's axios.put. We pass in the URL and the data. Perfect. Yeah, it takes in two arguments. It takes in, so axios.put is a lot like post with one extra element to it. We have Axios here. Yes, it's already been imported. Okay, so we're going to say, because we don't have an Axios instance set up, we're going to say http://localhost:3333. Let's go see the endpoint for our put. So we go to our server, we look for put. Okay, here's put. All right, we have this endpoint that looks a lot like our router endpoints that have parameters, right? In fact, even on the server, this is called a parameter. This is called params. So we treat this a lot like we treat routing to a component that has a dynamic parameter. So our endpoint is going to be an interpolated string with the ID of the item passed to it. So let's to string interpolators. Okay, then we're going to go to /items/ID. All right, we're going to call .then, get our response, console log it. We're going to call .catch, console log the error. That's my favorite thing to say, error. Console log the error. Okay, let's try this out. I'll stay right here for just a minute so you can catch up on this handle submit inside your update form. Okay, here we go. Let's set this to $28. And I'm going to clear my console. I'm going to clear my network tab. Click update. Ah, good. Let's take a look at our headers. So we made a request to /items/3. So we sent the correct ID down. Our request method was put. Uh-oh, we didn't have a body of data. We need to pass in a body of data here. So luckily we have our item, which is being updated with every change in our inputs. So we're going to pass in our item. And let's try this again. $28, update. Okay, there's our request payload. Perfect. So we passed in the price 28. Let's see what we get back. Oh, this is Yoga Joe's. Here we go. Yoga Joe's. Yoga Joe's, the new price is 28. Cool. So our response from the server was an array with the updated data on it. This isn't always the case. We're going to talk about this in a minute, but your project today is not going to pass back the full array, which means you're going to have to handle this next part a little bit differently than we do in the guided project. Okay, so in our console we have res.data is the full array of items with our updated item in the array. So what do we do with this? What is our user experience like if we push update and just stay on this page? What would a better user experience be? And how can we use this data to give our users a better experience? In other words, what's the next step? Okay, push user back to the item with the updated attributes. Yeah, we could push them to the item. By the way, there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of things we could do here. There's going to be a lot of correct answers here. Push it back to the item, push it back to the item page, tell user which parameter was updated. Oh, that's an interesting one. You could use a toast or a snack bar. Remember those? Yeah, a lot of people say push back to the item page. What about pushing them back to the full shop? You could do that. Okay, you all get to choose. Do we want to push them back to the item page or push them back to the shop? Item page. Pop-up window says the update was successful and redirect them to item. Yeah, something like a pop-up or a toast, something like that. Toaster. Yeah, toaster. Ooh, looks like overwhelming item page. I would love to go over this with you, but that's just something that we don't have time for. That would be really cool though. Item page is most logical in order to verify your changes. Cool. So let's do the item page. Last class, Web24 chose the shop. Again, lots of correct choices here. All right, so we've got our data on res.data is the full array with updated item. So let's go props.history.push to what is the item list / ID. Item, oh, we need to do this here. Item / item dash list / item.id. Okay, let's check it out. Let's go to Yoga Joe's. We're going to edit. We're going to take this back down to $25. Update. Uh-oh. What happened? Let's see, my data. Uh-oh. My data's correct. Nope, it's not. This one. $25. Let's look at the network call. Okay, so yeah, my data is correct here, but it's not showing up on the screen. Why not? Discount. Nice. No, we're not forcing re-renders. Never, ever, ever force render. But we do want to re-render. Yeah, we need to update our items. So let's think back to our architecture. We've got our items on state up here. When we click submit, our update form has the new data, but our app component needs needs that new data so that it can update its state. So we want to update our items state from down here. So let's take a look in our index.js. We have our items. If we need to update our items, we have this handy dandy setter function called setItems. So you'll notice that setItems is actually being passed to our update form as a prop called updateItems. So in our update form, if we do something like props.update items and pass in res.data, that should update these items. So when we route to our item list, we have our updated data. Okay, let me walk through that one more time. App is storing the data for items on state. We're taking this setter function and passing it to the update form. So let me break my update form out to the right here. Slide over, slide to the left, slide to the right. So we take that function, our setItems function, we pass it to update form on a prop called updateItems. So when we click the update button on the form, when we submit the form and we make our put request, we get our data back with the updated item on res.data. So we can call props.updateItems and pass in our updated data, and that will update our items where they're stored in app. Now, in your project today, and most of the time, you are not going to get back a full array with the updated items. Usually, APIs return just the updated item, or just the ID of the updated item. If that's the case, then you need to make a new array with all the old items and replace the updated item with the updated item. That sentence makes no sense. But yeah, the idea is that you would have to create a new items array from props.items, probably by mapping. Map through the items, find the item that you just updated, replace it with item, or with res.data, whichever you want to do there, and then call update items with your new array. All right, so that part is important. This part is important for your project this afternoon. So if you were dozing off for a couple minutes, then you'll have to come back and listen to this section again when the recording gets posted. Okay, this is an important part for your project. Okay, but for us, we're lucky. This API returns the full array with the updated item, so we can just pass in res.data. So let's check this out. Let's go to our shop. Let's just refresh everything here. Okay, Yoga Joe's of awesomeness. Update. Aha! There we go. It's working. It's working. Yes, we got it to work. Phew. Now we can do that for any item that we want. $20. $20. Okay, last break. Let's look at questions and then take the last break, and then we'll come back and do delete, which is way easier than put requests. Okay, can you go over the the if edits item again, walk through it? Yeah. So again, what was happening was a race condition. Let me save update form. Okay, we've got update form here. We've got index here. So when items is populated, if items is populated at the time that our update form mounts, then we didn't have any problem running finding our item to edit, because this was an array of populated items. So we didn't run into any errors there. The problem that happened is when we refresh the page while on our update form route, update form started mounting before items was populated, before we could finish this Axios call here. So what happened there is set item was outside of this if. Actually, we didn't even have this if. Props.items was an empty array, so this didn't return anything. So item to edit became undefined. So we set our item with undefined, so item became undefined rather than this initial item here. And if item is undefined, then we're going to get an error when we try to display item.name. We get the cannot read property name of undefined. And so what we have to do is we have to check to see if there is an item, if we found an item, If not, if this is undefined, we do not want to set our item with item to edit. But if we do find an item, then we go ahead and set our item with the item that we found. So again, it was a race condition between who could win first, this Axios.get call or this effect running. And it's always going to be this effect is going to win. There are race conditions where sometimes the call wins before you get to the operation that you're trying to run over here. And so with some race conditions, it makes it really hard to debug because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So just warning, you will run into issues like this and it will be hard. Not for Robbie though, he's got it figured out. All right, so the history.push is sending us to the component the route sets us up for. History.push is sending us to the component the route sets us up. Yeah, so history.push just takes you to, so we've got a history.push here. I think you're just asking about history.push in general. So it pushes, it takes you to the route. It replaces the URL with whatever you have here, and then your router will find the route that matches that path, and it will render whatever you tell it to render. If making functions is really expensive, should we create functions with the keyword function as much as possible instead of const function? No, some people do. This is a little bit more than this pattern here, but it's so minute that it doesn't really matter. Stick with arrow functions. Does expensive functions have to do with space and time, big O complexities? Yes and no. So some expensive functions do not deal with this. Some expensive functions, like if you have again, if you've got a new function being created inside a dot map, that's an expensive operation, not an expensive function. Expensive functions do have to deal with space and time complexities in Big O. But for anybody else listening that this is like, whoa, what are these crazy words? You'll get into this in computer science. So you're like months down the road from addressing these issues. So don't worry about this right now, but the answer is yes. Do we always rely on API to generate? Yeah, the API is going to generate your IDs. That's always, and you'll learn how to do that in the next unit, in the backend unit. You'll learn how to, it's actually usually the database that generates the ID. But yeah, you'll learn about that in the backend unit. If you didn't pass an item with the put request, why didn't the network tab through an error, red error of some sort? So that's because of the server. The server could say, since we're grabbing all this rec.body stuff here and all of it's required, we could do an if statement right after this line that says, if any of these are undefined, then return send user error. And we'd call this function, which is defined up here. Maybe it's not defined. Aha. Oh no, where is send user error? It sends a status 422 and the error message. So it's because of the way again, that's why we have this protocol. It should definitely have returned an error, but it didn't because me, as the author of this server, I did not follow protocol and I did not set it up that way. Okay, before I forget, did you find a time for the brown bag? So as of this week, right after that lesson, actually, I took on some extra responsibilities here at Lambda, and this week is not going to work for the brown bag. However, Monday or the Thursday or Friday that we come back from break, the days of the hackathon, I'm going to do this brown bag during the afternoon of one of those 2 days, and I'll record it and share it with you so that you can see how to test asynchronous operations. So that's the plan for the brown bag. It will be after the break at this point. If we're using Redux Thunk and dispatching actions, would it make more sense just to dispatch another GET request rather than doing the new array thing? The problem with that is it just takes longer. So it slows down your app a little bit if you dispatch a new action. You definitely could. So it's up to you. Your reducer could handle, you could build the logic in the reducer to build a new array though. You really don't need to dispatch, you don't need to do another GET request. We actually want to kind of avoid doing another GET request because it just will take more time. Okay, awesome questions. All right, let's take a break and we'll come back for deleting stuff. Okay, last part, here we go. All right, so the last thing we want to do is delete things. All the power. Okay, so let's go to our item here. So we've got our delete button. We're going to add an on click that is going to say delete. Why is typing hard? Delete item. So let's go up and add a new function for delete item. Of course, takes in an event, and we'll call event.preventDefault. Why are we complaining here? Because of double arrows. There we go. Okay, so Axios.delete is the function we're going to use. And what do we pass into Axios.delete? Yeah, it's going to be a URL with the item ID tagged onto the back. So if we go back again to our server and we find where the delete function is, here's the delete endpoint. It is /item/ID. So delete is cool. It's kind of like a mix between a GET request and a PUT request, in that we don't have to pass in any data. We just pass in the URL with the ID of the item we want to delete. So http://localhost:3333/items/the item.id. Okay, let's make sure it's items, plural. Yep. All right. We're going to .then and .catch. And let's go see what we get back for the response. So I'm going to open up. Let me leave this on here for a second so you can catch up to this point here. All right, so let's go into the item page. We're going to clear out the console. We're going to clear out the network. We're going to click delete. Looks like that was successful. And it looks like Elwood, the unicorn cereal bowl, is no longer in our data. So again, we got back a full array of all the items with Elwood, whatever item we click on, being deleted. So pretty similar to what we got back for the put request. Sorry, Elwood. But this is, again, bad UX. So for the next, let's say 4 minutes, I want you to, inside your .then, create a better user experience for after your user clicks this delete. So you'll want to update the state for items with this array that's returned, and then probably route away from this page because we just deleted this item. Okay, so 4 minutes to do that. Okay, there's your tasks. We'll do 3 more minutes. Remember, it's better if you attempt this, even if you get it wrong, than not attempting it at all. One minute left. Okay. So I'll just walk through this because of time. We want to give our user a better experience. It's bad to just sit here after I click delete. It's It's bad to just sit here on this page. They have no idea if their item was deleted or not. So we want to, inside our dot then, set the new array that we're getting back in our response to the item state in app. So what that means is our items again here are this piece of state is controlling all the items around our entire app. So we need to update this array whenever we change something like deleting or editing or posting. So inside here, we want to call this set items function that's in app. So let's go down to our item route. So here's our item route. Again, we're getting update items passed as a prop. So we have props.update items. We'll call set items. We're going to pass in res.data. And then we also want to route away from the item page. So this time we're going to route to the item list. So let's go props.history.push. And we don't need an interpolated string because this one is just /item list. Okay, let's try it out. Uh-oh, we're on item 9 and it was deleted. So let's go back and delete dinosaur taco holders and mathematical glasses and the avocado tree starter kit and the fishing pole and the bookends and the yoga joes. Wow, delete all the things. I'm like Thanos times 2 or something. No items left. But that's okay because they're just hard-coded in our server, so we just do that. Refresh our page. There they are. Whew. All right. So that is it for today. Put requests and delete requests. The project for today, again, is the movies assignment. The MVP for today is to set it up so you can update a movie. So add a route to the path update movie /:ID. Create your form and run a put request to update the movies. Also delete a movie, so add a delete button in the movie component that makes a delete request. When the call comes back successfully, route the user to /movies, where they will see the updated movie list. In other words, you're going to have to update the movie list. Don't do a force re-render, or don't do like a force refresh or anything. Update your state to cause a re-render so that they see the updated state without having to refresh the page. And then the stretch to add a movie, and yeah. So stretch problem, see part 3. This kind of goes along with quite a few things we've done recently. And then styling. Okay, this gets a little bit tough because the movie object format has a list of strings for the stars. So another stretch would be to, when you're updating your movie, be able to add a new string here. So you'll have to do some splitting and some joining to make sure that you get a list of strings to pass to the database. All right, let's see if there's any questions, and then we'll be good for today. This is actually kind of a possibility. Is the material tomorrow really going to take 2 hours? I mean, I can make it take 2 hours, trust me. Or maybe we can do the brown bag tomorrow during lecture. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. I'll be prepared with the brown bag tomorrow, because that would help me save time on after break. But if we don't get to it, then I'm totally fine to do the brown bag after the break. Okay, I'll wait around for another couple seconds here to see if anyone else has questions. Uh-oh. calling me out. I have not. Okay, I will get to this, and it may be after the break. Why did that happen? It like jumped back into the for review column. That was crazy. That may be an after the break thing that I'll get done. But I will put it on my task list. So I will get that done, I promise. Oh yeah, what is the const in item called? Okay, I know how to look this up. Derived property? That doesn't sound right. Yeah. Version of control. Derive it, yeah. Okay, don't sync state, derive it. So find derived. Yeah, derived state. That's what it's called. Derived state. Item.js. This is called derived state. If you want to learn more about this, here is yet another blog post for your enjoyment. Okay, awesome. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you all tomorrow.